Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite movies to watch at Christmas. So yeah, these are just the movies that I pretty much go to every December and just whack these movies on and just have an absolute great time with them. Now, not all the movies on the list that I watch each year are great movies. Some of these movies I just don't think are very good, but regardless of the quality of the film, I do still find myself watching them each year. There are, I think, some Christmas movies that I've not seen that I don't have on this list. Some of them I did pick up this month, but they won't feature in this video. They'll feature in my end of the month pickups coming out on the 31st of December. So, yeah, like I say, these are just the movies I go to, I watch every December. Some of these movies as well, debate has been going on for years as to whether these are Christmas movies. But I'll give you my thoughts on some of them when I get to them. But yeah, that being said, gonna get straight into the video now, talking about my favorite movies to watch at Christmas. So yeah, my first pick that I've got is Ron Howard's The Grinch. Now, I saw this movie at the cinema when it first came out. I sort of liked it when I was younger. I think I was about 10, but this is not a good movie. I don't think this is a poor adaptation of Dr. Seuss, in my opinion. I know his widow, after Cat in the Hat, sort of vowed that a live action movie of his work would never be made again. And yeah, this for me is a really good example of a bad movie made by a good director. I mean, there are good things in it, don't get me wrong, it definitely captures the Christmas vibe, but I just don't think, personally, on the whole, this is a good movie. I think it's a good Jim Carrey performance as the Grinch, but for me, I don't know. I just find this movie a bit silly at times. Um, but yeah, I still watch it each Christmas regardless because of the vibe it gives me, and it's just great. It wouldn't be Christmas without it. So yeah, that's the Grinch. Next movie I've got is Miracle on 34th Street with Richard Attenborough and Mara Wilson. Yeah, I didn't grow up on this movie at all. I sort of remember seeing trailers for it on other VHS tapes growing up, and yeah, it never was part of my childhood at all. It didn't really go beyond that point. But I sort of remember watching it for the first time, sort of about 10 years ago, and thinking it was okay. It was a good time. But on rewatches, I do find it a bit of a, a bit of a struggle in parts. So thank God I only watch it once a year. Some years I do skip it, but yeah, it's okay for what it is. It's cliched and it's fine. It's harmless fun, but yeah, it's not much more than that to me. It's got a really good Richard Attenborough performance in it as Santa. You absolutely buy him as Santa Claus. He's great in the movie, but other than that, it just doesn't really stick out with me so much. If I'm honest, it's typical corporate villain. Yeah, it's generic, but it's fine for what it is. It does the job, at a passable level. So next one got on my list is Disney's The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. Very sort of similar feelings about this as Miracle on 34th Street. I think it's good. I think it's okay. Nothing special, if I'm honest. But I do, again, I watch it pretty much nearly every year. It's could be another one that I personally do skip, you know, every other year. But yeah, it is what it is. It's fine. I enjoy it. Yeah, there's not much more to it than that. Next up is a movie I only saw for the first time last year. It is Scrooge, the Alistair Sim version. Now, I'm totally familiar with the Charles Dickens novel of A Christmas Carol, and there's other versions of that story in this list that I do enjoy more than this one. As I said, I only saw it for the first time last year, so I don't really have that nostalgic connection to it. But for an older film, I think this movie's great. I think the effects in for the time are pretty good, and it's just the classic story. And I know a lot of people consider this to be the best version. Absolutely fine. It's not my favorite. We'll get to that one in a bit. But yeah, I think this movie was great, and it was everything I expected it to be. And yeah, really, really enjoyed Scrooge with Alistair Sim. So yeah, thought it was fantastic. Next up is possibly for a lot of people's opinion, consider this to be the greatest Christmas movie of all time. And it is A Wonderful Life. Now, yes, this is a really, really good movie, but I don't have that Christmas connection with it. It's not one I watch every year. I do skip it every couple of years or so often to come back to it. It doesn't have that connection with me. I do think it is a great film, but once a year watched isn't really warranted by me. If I'm honest, I think it's good and it's great for what it is, but it doesn't have the rewatch factor for me. Um, but yeah, I can completely understand, its reputation. I think it's well deserved, but for me, it's not one I go back to every year. But I do think it is great. So yeah, that's A Wonderful Life. Next up, we've got Elf with Will Ferrell. Now, for me, I find this movie a bit more of a struggle to watch. It's one I definitely watch each year, but for me, I do think this movie is cliched, if I'm honest. It's I think we've had this story tons of times before in other different movies. But this one just sort of it has the Christmas vibe to it, it has the Christmas feel to it, it's definitely there. But for me it's too cliched of a movie for me, if I'm honest. It's got a great supporting cast to it, James Caan, Peter Dinklage, Zoe Deschanel. They're great in it, but it's just too cliche. It's a fish out of water story. It really is, but it's just a bit too cliched for me. But I do enjoy it for what it is. I do think it is a good Jon Favreau movie. Um, but yeah, that is Elf. Next up, we have Santa Claus the movie with Dudley Moore. Now, this is one of those movies that just seems to be on ITV every Christmas day, every year. And I always catch the first half of it, and then I always just sort of trail out and never finish watching it at all. And probably for good reason, because I don't think the second half of this movie is very good. Again, it's another corporate villain, played brilliantly by John Lithgow, but it's not. It just doesn't hold up for me. This movie, I do think it is enjoyable, and definitely the Christmas vibe is there. I love the whole sort of origin of Santa Claus, sort of becoming Santa Claus for the first time. I think that's great. Burgess Meredith is Father Time, fantastic. Anything he touches turns to gold, in my opinion. But at the end of this movie, it just sort of becomes the corporate villain movie, and it's not great. I think that song by Sheena Easton is criminally underrated and is a great Christmas song, and it just fits this movie so well. But the aesthetics to this movie, particularly in the first half, I think are great and it's stunning. But yeah, it falls apart in that second half for me. But I do think it is a good one. So yeah, that is Santa Claus the movie. Next up, we have Bad Santa with Billy Bob Thornton. Um, a Christmas movie that is just not a Christmas movie in nearly every sense of the word. I think it's just mean spirited and bad. This character that's in this movie, but I have so much fun with it. It's great. Absolutely love it. I think it's quite underrated as well. This movie, but it's yeah, it's I enjoy it. It's good fun. As it is in bad taste as it could be if you consider it that way. But I do have a great time with Bad Santa. It's just the dirty bad humor in it that I just really like, and it's a lot of fun. I can't say much more than that. Um, but yeah, that's Bad Santa. Next up, we've got Christmas Story. Yeah, this one it sort of follows this kid who wants this BB rifle for Christmas, but every time he like asks his parents, he goes to the mall to see Santa. Every time he asks for this BB gun, everyone sort of says the same thing to him, which is you're gonna shoot your eye out. And it just looks like he's never ever gonna get this BB gun. But what I love about this movie is just the certain scenes in it, which just are absolutely great. There's just so many memorable scenes in it, from when goes to see Santa at the mall, and like after you see Santa, you go down the slide and he's like clinging on, and, and you'll shoot your eye out, and he just sort of pushes him with his boot. The other bit where the kid gets his tongue stuck to the pillar, he's outside, and everyone has to go back to class, and he's still outside, and they're just looking at him through the window. It's so funny. It's great, and of course it's got that famous leg lamp, which is just absolutely hideous. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, a Christmas Story, and I just think it's great, and it's fantastic, annual staple for me. So yeah, coming up next we've got Richard Donner's Scrooged with Bill Murray. Um, yeah, it is pretty much Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, but it is completely threaded through a new light and is done differently. I absolutely love it for that. Instead of Scrooge being, like this sort of this greedy money banker, he's like a greedy TV executive played by Bill Murray. And instead of money, he's just sort of after ratings and success, and he's just like such a dick to work for. He's just absolutely horrible to his workers, and it's the setting that makes this movie so much fun. You know, this TV corporate building, and it's just fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's just such a breath of fresh air and a fresh take on the story. And I just think it's great. It took me a while to warm up to this movie, but now that I am warmed up to it, I do think it's great and it's fantastic. I think it's one of Richard Donner's most underrated movies. Even you throw the likes of Lethal Weapon and Superman and Goonies in there, this one really is good, and I think it holds up to them. But yeah, I just have a great time with it. Bill Murray's on point in it. I love it. The Ghost, particularly Ghost of Christmas Past, is probably my favorite one. The taxi driver, but yeah, it is. It's great, and I love Scrooged. I think it's a fantastic Richard Donner movie. So yeah, I Scrooged. Next up on my list is another sort of version of Christmas Carol, and it's Mickey's Christmas Carol. Now, this is only 25 minutes long, but my word, does it execute the story brilliantly. It's just it's a fantastic take on it. I can't really say much more than that because we all know the story and we know it so well, and it's pretty much it goes hand in hand with Christmas. This story alone, but this version of it really does execute it so well in such a short space of time, and it's one I grew up on watching. Pete as the Ghost of Christmas Future is terrifying in this version. He just scared the crap out of me as a kid. You got Willie the Giant as Ghost of Christmas Present and Jiminy Cricket as the Ghost of Christmas Past. And I really enjoy it. I think Scrooge McDuck makes a great Scrooge. He is just absolutely fantastic and funny. Goofy as Jacob Marley. His entrance terrified me as a kid. It just spooked the hell out of me. But as I say, it's a great version. You can find it on Disney Plus. It's only 25 minutes long. Totally worth your time watching. I think it's absolutely fantastic and a great adaptation of the story as well. So yeah, that is Mickey's Christmas Carol. Next up, we've got Love Actually. Now, I really enjoy this story. Well, the stories in the movie, shall I say? It's got such an ensemble cast. Maybe too many, but for me, it really works. It just, every actor in this movie and every character in this movie gets an equal amount of screen time, and it just works. You care about the stories. I know some people care about more stories than others in this, but for me, I really enjoy all of them, and it just works so well, in my opinion. Just have an absolutely great time with it. I think the soundtrack is great. The Christmas vibe in this movie is 100% there for me. It just really works, and you really do get invested in these characters and the story. Some of them are heartbreaking, and some of them are funny. It's a mixed bag of emotions, this movie, and I do think it is great, and I absolutely love it. One I watch every year without fail. So yeah, that is Love Actually. Next up, we've got Joe Dante's Gremlins. Now, you may argue whether this is a Christmas movie or not. For me, it is. I really enjoy this. The concept we all know. It's not the concept is nothing to do with Christmas. It just so happens to be set at Christmas. And the vibe is very much there. We all know the concept. I'm not going to get into it, but as a Christmas movie, it's there and it's great. And it doesn't really hold back on the Christmas vibe, shall I say? Christmas is definitely in this movie. It's definitely not the forefront, but it's there. You definitely feel it and definitely see it. And yeah, it's a great sort of horror movie at the forefront, I think, but with a great concept. But Christmas as the setting just adds to it, and it's great. So yeah, I can't say much more than that. And that's Gremlins. Next up, cover for this doesn't really do it justice as it's part of a box set, but next up for me is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Personally, this is my favourite vacation movie out of all four of them. All four of the ones with where Chevy Chase is the lead, and yeah, I think it just pips the first one for me. There's parts of the second one that don't really hold up for me in Europe, and I don't think Vegas is very good. But Christmas Vacation for me is probably hands down the best one in the collection. It's fantastic. It captures everything about Christmas, in my opinion. Everything from the family members getting the presents, putting the lights up. It's all represented in this movie, and it's played really, really well. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. Really, really enjoy the music in it as well. But for a third movie, it's one of the best in my opinion. I just absolutely have a blast with Christmas Vacation. Um, and yeah, it's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I absolutely love it. I love the supporting cast: Randy Quaid, Bill Murray's brother as Clark's boss. It's great. It's fantastic, and I love the characters and the family as well. It's just absolutely great. I just love it. It personifies Christmas. It's not a movie I grew up with either. I only saw it similar to the other one I mentioned about 10 years ago, and it's become one of my favorite Christmas movies ever. Just absolutely love it, and that's a rare thing for one I didn't really grow up with. But yeah, I really, really dig Christmas Vacation. I think it's fantastic. So next up, we've got Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right, for me, this movie is not a good movie. When you look at the finished product, it really isn't. But there's something so enjoyable and so entertaining about this movie. I really, really can't hate it. I absolutely love it for that. Even though I don't think it's a very good film, I just really, really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I think it's the cast. I think Schwarzenegger. You can't really go wrong. He's not the greatest actor in the world, but he's trying in this movie, and he's like, he really is the charm of this movie about this dad who's a workaholic who forgets to buy his son a Christmas present, leaves it to the last minute, and can he fuck find a Turbo Man? But the supporting cast in this as well, absolutely great. Sinbad as this other sort of rival parent who's trying to hunt down this Turbo Man. Phil Hartman, the late great Phil Hartman as Howard, the neighbor who is just an absolute terrible person underneath the surface, in my opinion, who's just basically trying to worm his way in all the housewives of the, the neighborhood. It's a great character you love to hate, but he's played so well by Phil Hartman. And the scene with the cookies as well is classic. I love it for what it is, even though I don't think it's great. It's one I watch every year. It entertains the hell out of me, and I just absolutely love it for what it is, even though I don't think it's great. So yeah, that is Jingle All the Way. Next up, we've probably got my favourite adaptation of A Christmas Carol, and it's The Muppets Christmas Carol with Michael Caine. I adore this film. It's probably one of the earliest Christmas movies I ever remember watching growing up. I think it's fantastic. I think the music in it is great. I think the Muppets are absolutely on point in this film. I think they're the funniest they've ever been. And I think they work so well with the straight Michael Caine Ebenezer Scrooge. It's just executed brilliantly for me, and I absolutely love it. The pacing of the movie never lets up. I know there's a song cut out of the DVD version that's only in the VHS version, which I still have my VHS copy, but I guess they sort of cut it out for pacing issues. But for some reason, I remember watching the DVD thinking it feels like there's a scene missing here, and it just didn't sit right with me. But I guess they just cut it out for a sort of pacing issue, or they didn't feel as if it fitted in the movie anymore. But I kind of missed it, and yeah, I was just a bit sort of disheartened why they took that out. But I guess it is what it is. But anyway, I adore this movie. It's the best version of the tale, in my opinion. It's my favorite. It's the one I watch every year without fail. I haven't watched it this year yet, but I'm planning on watching it either today or tomorrow, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, that is The Muppets Christmas Carol. Next up, we have Home Alone 1 and 2, the only two Home Alone movies that are worth watching, in my opinion. First one, absolutely love it. It is a classic. Again, a movie with a concept that could have worked any time of year, but with Christmas being the setting, it's great. I associate this movie with the season, with the month of December. I watch this movie probably more than once in the month. I absolutely love it. Absolutely dig it. Love the burglars. You know, Daniel Stern as Marv, Joe Pesci as Harry. The chemistry between the two of them is just absolutely great. Considering Joe Pesci did Goodfellas the same year. The two polar opposite characters, but they're both villains, but both two polar opposite characters, and I just absolutely love it. Home Alone 2, for me, the best thing about Home Alone 2 is hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, Tim Curry is the concierge. Tim Curry makes Home Alone 2, he makes it tolerable. I rewatched Home Alone 2, and I think without Tim Curry, this movie was a bit of a struggle to get through, if I'm honest. It's a rehash of the first one, but it's a likable rehash, shall I say. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table, but Tim Curry's the best part about Home Alone 2, in my opinion. I don't even really like Macaulay Culkin's performance in it, if I'm honest. I think it was Nostalgia Critic who said, in the second movie, because of the success of the first movie, Macaulay Culkin had a bit of an arrogance about him, and you can sort of tell in his performance that he's just really not trying, and he's just sort of like coasting through the movie. Buzz, I think, is really good in the second one. I think he's really sort of elevated to that next level, and he's a bit of a smarter bully. If you look at his scenes, under the microscope a bit more closely, I think he's a bit more calculated as a bully. But yeah, other than that, I did kind of find the movie a bit of a struggle. I do really like the traps in the second one. It really does, it does make me laugh in parts. The scene where they're getting attacked by the pigeons has me in absolute hysterics, pissing myself. But yeah, really like these two movies. Second one's not as good, but Tim Curry saves it for me. And yeah, I just really, really enjoy them. The two Home Alone movies that are worth the watch the most, in my opinion. So next up, we've got Tim Burton produced Nightmare Before Christmas. This for me is probably the first movie I can ever remember seeing at the cinema back in 1993. And I absolutely loved it, fell in love with it. Now, you could argue as well, is this movie a Halloween movie? Is this movie a Christmas movie? For me, it's both. You can watch it in either season. It's great. I don't even think this movie's tied to either season. You can watch it any time of year, I think, and have a great time with it. I love the aesthetics to it. I think the stop motion is absolutely on point and it's absolutely stunning. I just enjoy Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it's great. Absolutely fantastic music. I think Chris Sarandon as Jack Skellington is great. Danny Elfman as a singing voice is superb. Casting it is great. Catherine O'Hara, Glenn Shaddix as the mayor. Absolutely works for me, and I love it. I can't praise this movie enough. Absolutely adore it. The only thing I'll say about it is I've tried to watch this movie a couple of times in the past with people who've never seen it before, and they just can't get into it. And I find that quite strange. Maybe it's the animation style, or maybe it's the look of the movie. I don't know, but I tried watching it with people before, and they just can't really get into it, and they just don't really like it. And that's fair enough, but for me, it's an absolute staple. I love it. I think it's one of the best animated movies made. I think it's great. It's not too long either. It doesn't overstay its welcome. But yeah, I have a great time with Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it's great. So yeah, coming up to my last picks now. This is a box set. Now, this is the one that is probably the most controversial as to whether it is a Christmas or a Christmas movie. I'll give you my thoughts on that now. And that's Die Hard. Now, the first movie. The question's always been appointed, hasn't it? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And for me, my honest answer, my opinion, I don't think it's that simple as yes, it is, or no, it isn't. Die Hard at the forefront is an action movie, which just so happens to be set at Christmas. Christmas is definitely there in this movie. You know, it's definitely present. no pun intended. But it's not the heartbeat of the movie. It's not at the forefront of the movie. The fact that this movie is set at Christmas does not tie this movie to the season. You can watch Die Hard, in my opinion, any month of the year, any time of the year. You can put Die Hard on and watch it and have a great time. It's not tied to Christmas. It's there. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely there in its soundtrack, its sound design, the fact it's set at Christmas Eve. It's there, but it's not the forefront of the movie. It's never ever the focus of the movie. The focus of the movie is John McClane and Hans Gruber, hands down. But you know, it doesn't stop me from watching it each Christmas. I watch it each Christmas, absolutely. I watch the first three movies each Christmas. Um, if anything, Die Hard 2 is more of a Christmas movie than the first one, in my opinion. I love Die Hard 2 and I love Die Hard 3. I know Die Hard 3 isn't really set at Christmas, but the first two do have a vibe to me. But Christmas is not the forefront of the Die Hard movies. I just don't think it's as simple as saying yes it is or no it isn't. It's a very very grey area in my opinion. You know, and if you want to watch Die Hard each Christmas, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to watch it in the summer or in the spring, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that either. I just think it's a movie you can watch at any time of year, and still get the same thing out of it each time. Um, yeah, I just love those first three movies. I think they're great. The second movie, I think the chemistry between Bruce Willis and Dennis Franz is absolutely on point. These two cops that just absolutely hate each other but have got to work together. It's great. The dialogue in there is just absolutely exceptional. Really, really funny at times. I really dig. I think William Sadler makes a great villain as well in the second one. I think the third movie, I think they sort of. I would have liked it if Jeremy Irons as Simon was sort of kept off screen a bit longer and it was just more of a voice that we heard. I would have liked to have seen that go on a little bit longer, but it's a solid trilogy. Don't really like four, hate five, but yeah, I think the first three are the ones worth watching. But yeah, as I said, the first movie, I don't think it's as simple as calling it a Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie. It's a very very grey area. It's a chicken and the egg situation, I think. But yeah, I can't really say much more than that. That's my opinion on whether it is or it isn't. I just don't think it's that simple to put it into one of those two categories. Um, but yeah, I watch it at Christmas regardless. Watch it at Christmas. Watch it any time of the year. You know, it's great. It's a solid 10 out of 10 action movie, and I just absolutely love it. Perfectly paced, perfectly acted. It's one of the best movies ever. Yeah, that is the Die Hard movies. So yeah, those are my movies that I like to watch every December, shall we say? As I said, some of them I do skip um, every other year, as it were, because I just really sort of can't get into those movies. But yeah, let me know some of your favorite Christmas movies that you like to watch. I know there's a few that personally I probably could have missed, but as I said, they'll be in the pickups months at the end of the month. And yeah, I'll leave the video there and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, have a good Christmas, and a happy new year, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.